So I came across a video this morning, and when I went back to look at it for a second time, the sound had been removed. It had only been up and playing for a few minutes. But she was talking about a book that was available in your children's school potentially. And whether it is at your children's school or not, I'm not sure. I think it's important that you do the research and figure out whether or not this book is at your child's school and really decide whether or not you want it at your child's school. I do believe as parents, it is up to us to curate the school's library and decide which book, based on our community values, are best to be taught in the public schools. Now, we're not talking about book banning. A lot of people get confused about book banning. Book banning would be saying you can't buy this book from Amazon or anywhere. That's not what I am implying in any way, shape, or form. This book should be sold at Amazon and should be available for parents to decide whether or not and when they want to use this book to help educate their children on these topics. But this is a very personal decision on what kind of material you want your child to be reading for their first material when it comes to educating them on this topic. Personally, I don't believe that sex education should be taught in public schools at all. I believe that this is a topic that should be left out of the schools. I remember sex education very well when I was a young teenager. I was in school. I had a gay teacher who was teaching the class. At the end of the class, at the end of the year, she did ask me out on a date. She actually asked me to go to another country with her when I graduated. We went out to dinner. She did take me out on that date after graduation. And to be honest, I didn't even realize it was a date. I was very young. I didn't understand. She was trying to offer me some opportunities that, and afterwards, I felt very, very uncomfortable. And I did not realize that she was actually coming on to me and hitting me at the time. But she was hitting on me, and she was trying to take me out and trying to take me across country, which is very inappropriate for a teacher to do with a student. Now, that being said, this book is called Let's Talk About It. And there are several schools that found out that there are several parents that found out that this book was being taught in their child's school, and they had raised some concerns. Florida being one of the schools systems where this book was found, and DeSantis had done a lot of stuff, and of course there was all that, stuff going back and forth with DeSantis and the book banning and Disney and this, that, and the other. But I stand behind DeSantis, and I do not feel like these books should be taught in public schools, period, or should be available in the public school library, period. But again, this is up for every parent to decide on their own, and the only way that you're going to know is if you research the book for yourself. Now, this person is very upset. They say the book was not recommended, that this lady particularly had lied about the information. She said the recommended audience was 11. This person says a recommended audience is 14 and up. Personally, I don't think that it should be available in any school, whether it's high school, middle school, elementary school. It makes no difference to me. It should not be in the schools at all. Now, here's something very interesting, a video that I came across I'd like to share with you guys and see your perspective on this.
So, obviously, it's two adults who did this graphic novel. However, in the very beginning of the book, here's a couple boys talking, and it says, there should be like a book about this stuff, but with us teens doing the teaching. Haha, yeah, or a comic book. And that's kind of setting up the whole dynamic of that's the explanation behind the reasoning of what you're about to read and view through the drawn pictures. What I just said might not have registered with everybody. So looking at it critically, as you go through the book, it is teens discussing these things with other teens. The pictures are teens with other teens. The nudity is of teens. That's the implied reference. So when you see in the book, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not posting nudity. That's probably a bad way to immediately start a YouTube channel and that ought to tell you something. Like, if I'm concerned about community standards within social media on posting pictures of what's inside of a book, it should be common sense that that book maybe isn't appropriate for kids in a school setting. And there are some people out there, and I've read them on all kinds of social media, that, well, kids can take a phone and see worse than that. Sure, they can. And I don't think anybody doubts that kids haven't used the phone in order to look at pornography or look at things that are very inappropriate. But just because kids have access to that doesn't mean we as a community, we as parents, we as the state legislator, whoever you want to look at it from, that doesn't necessarily make it right. And again, like I said, the nudity is as teens. I'm not a lawyer. I've never played one on TV. I'm not going to talk about it in this video. I plan on maybe doing something down the road about what is defined as child pornography and what is defined as obscene material. I honestly don't know if an implied reference of teens having sex with one another or showing teen genitalia constitutes as child pornography.
Now, since the sound was removed on her video, we can't hear what she has to say about it. But let's look at what the book is about. Now, it has a lot of characters that are illustrated like comic book characters. The first chapter focuses on what sex is, how variety of expression can be, and what consent means. The second chapter non-judgmentally explores the various kinds of relationships, including monogamous, polymorous, open, and compassionate. So subsequent chapters discuss gender and sexuality with joyful and varied illustrations. So they have a lot of different drawings featuring loving representations of many body types, anatomy, including outstanding drawings that are inclusive of trans and intersex people, masturbation, with how-to ideas even presented, and thorough coverage of birth control and STI prevention. I find it interesting the book is rounded out with chapters on what to think, like literally telling people what to think about before having sex, orgasms, and ground rules for sex and kinks, fantasies, and porn, jealousy and rejection. You know, a lot of these topics are things that I think a lot of parents would agree, most parents would agree should not be in a public school setting. Now, again, if you want to go get this book from Amazon or somewhere else, that's different. But if I'm worried about this video even being violated for community guidelines because I can't even talk about the book without it being violated, well, then maybe that should tell you everything you need to know. If this video is at risk of being violated, then this book itself should definitely not be in schools. If I can't even talk about this book on social media, your child should not be allowed to read it in a public school setting. And that's my opinion, and I'm going to stick by it. You're going to have a hard time convincing me that I should be thinking a different way on that. I was very concerned when I had a discussion with my son at 12 years old, talking about the different groups that, we were part of when we were kids. I remember the Breakfast Club. You got the nerds, you got the jocks, you got, the freaks, you got different groups and different people that you hang out with. And my son's like, yeah, we got different groups too. And he started talking about all the different groups. And he started talking about how we have the bisexuals and the asexuals and the polysexuals and this, that, and the other. And I didn't even know half of the things that he was talking about. And it was very disturbing to me that the children were diversifying their groups by their sexuality. Like, where were they getting this from? They weren't learning this at home. They were learning this in the school setting somewhere. And this was not aligning with our core family values. A lot of people have different morals and different beliefs and different religious beliefs, and those beliefs need to be respected. And not everybody believes that this book and the information in this book is accurate and true to the way that you should be viewing life and viewing sexuality. And I think that that's a very personal topic that each family should be making on their own, on how to educate their children on relationships and what a relationship should look like. And we all are going to have different beliefs on this. What's important is that you educate yourself and that you are speaking out, whatever your belief is. Be loud and make sure that you are protecting your children from material that you do not believe that your children should be reading. Make sure you're speaking up about it, because they will put books like this right into the school if we're not paying attention and aware of what other people are teaching our children. They're your children at the end of the day. It is your responsibility to make sure that they're being fed with good food. And information is food. It's food for your soul. It's food for your mind. And it's important that they get healthy food.